So what are you seeing in this? Can anyone answer? What are you seeing in this image? Right, Taj Mahal, right? So on your left hand side of the screen, okay, this is 30 centimeter data. This is much more fine. And this is 50 centimeter data. This is a bit coarse. Okay, so you can figure it out a few features which you cannot figure it out from the 50 centimeter data. Okay, so what does that mean actually? In simple terms, if two trees, okay, for an example, if two trees are 30 centimeter apart from each other, you will be able to distinguish between them if the satellite imagery is of 30 centimeter. If they are closer than 30 centimeter, let's say they are far apart from each other at 20 centimeters, you won't be able to distinguish between them. You would consider both of them as single entity. Why? Because your satellite imagery is of 30 centimeter, so you can only figure it out that 30 centimeter and beyond data, you would be able to distinguish between them. But above 30 centimeter, not possible, because the sensor is not developed for that. Okay, by the way, 30 centimeter data is very high resolution data. In applications like defense surveillance, they are using such sort of centimeter data. Okay, otherwise in GIS applications, the mapping of different things, we are using meter data, like 1 meter, 5 meter, 25 meter, 30 meter. It depends on the area. Right now you are only seeing the Taj Mahal, so it's a building only, so you need the centimeter data. Right, just imagine if you're looking at a city. Okay, Delhi city is there. So would you be requiring centimeter data? No, obviously not. It depends on your application, by the way, but definitely not if you are only picturizing a Delhi. You would be needing a meter or maybe a kilometer data. So it depends on your application. Coordinate systems. Let me just sip a glass of water. So coordinate systems, what it is like? What does this actually mean? So as you guys already told me that shape of the earth is somebody said egg, somebody said it's geoid, somebody said it's elliptical, but I told you the exact shape of the earth is ellipsoid. So do you see that ellipsoid on your Google Maps as well, or do you see that ellipsoid on your paper map as well? No, definitely not. You see it on a plain paper, right? It's a plain surface. So to convert that ellipsoid or a certain area into a plain image or a paper map, it requires some projection systems which are defined for different applications by different countries. Okay, India has also defined a projection system. Likewise, America has defined. So many countries have defined their projection system. So as the name suggests, projecting, if you are projecting anything from a particular perspective, that is known as projection system. It's a very big concept in its own, so we will not go into that deep. You just for the time being, you just understand there are two types of projected system, sorry, coordinate system. One is projected coordinate system, one is geographic. So now as you can see, the geographic coordinate system, as the geography is, it will be in a degree decimal as the shape of the earth is. And the projected system, because it is projected in a plane surface, it can be of any surface, but right now we are using projected surface. So it is covered in minutes. Okay, sorry, degree decimal. And the unit is meters or feet or inches, whatever you want you can take. But in the geographical geographical coordinate system, you cannot take the meters into the application, because it's an ellipsoid. It will be requiring some different algorithms. So just to make sense, just to make it simple for a human being, it is known as the projected coordinate system, so that he will be able to calculate the area of maybe a city or maybe a lake, or maybe he would be able to define what is the length of this road or what is the midpoint of this road. So for such applications, and to place it onto a plain surface, so that any person, whether he's from India or whether he's from Australia, he can understand it. Okay, so that's why we are using the projection system, that is coordinate systems. Okay, so I think I made some sense to you guys. Uh, so as I already mentioned that the projection systems can have two spatial frames: latitude, longitude, degree, decimals, degree, minute, second. So I think this is not required for you guys. It will be too much for you. So this word WGS84, this is a type of a projection system which you are seeing here in the second last point, WGS84. It's a datum projected system which is being used worldwide. That means for the complete world, this is a unique projection system which is defined by a particular maybe agency or a country. Maybe America has done that, this WGS84. So likewise, every country has defined their own projection system. So in India, we actually use UTM. So for army, they use their own projection system. The ISRO people, they use their own projection system. Okay. So for the timing, you just understand that, okay, from geographical system, you just come to the projection system, the projected coordinate system. I think that much is enough for you guys. Now, I was, let me see what time it is. So, as I already mentioned so much about the things, that how the satellite imagery is, what the spatial data is, non-spatial data is there some question? Why skip the lifelong section? Raj, I think I already explained you in a brief that what is latitude and longitude. If you want to know it in detail, I will explain it to you afterwards. Okay, so you just save your questions afterwards. What is the GIS database is all about? I'm explaining to you that what the formats are there, what the extensions are there, what vector data is, raster data is, satellite imagery, and everything, projection system and everything. But how do we collect that data basically? So incorporation of the data is actually starts from the legacy data, because right now from last few years we have been using GIS. Not few years, maybe from last 20 or 30 years it has been used extensively. But earlier it was not being practiced very rigorously. So at that time only legacy maps were there. Okay, printed hand maps, handmade maps, and different sort of maps were there. Okay, so right now we all are uh, converting those maps into the digital format. So it is known as the digitizing of the legacy data. So it actually starts with that only. So even if you want to create some point line polygon data, what you would do, you would procure a satellite imagery, or maybe you would go to the Google Maps and you would start drawing it, of course with the help of a software. But just imagine that this is the building footprint you are seeing, and you would be digitizing onto it. So it actually starts with the data. GIS is all about the data, as I already mentioned, because without information, geography is nothing. It's just blank for everyone, because you cannot analyze anything. So it starts with the legacy data, or maybe the new data which you'll be digitizing in the earlier stage, or maybe the recent stage. Okay, then procurement of satellite imagery of the resolution whatever you want. Maybe it is a GPS survey or the DGPS survey. Then different sort of survey you can do a property assessment survey, you can do a lidar survey, you can do a drone survey, or maybe you can do a field survey by just filling up the questionnaire with the, that is also information. And you can collect the GPS point of that house from where you are actually collecting your data, or you're filling up your questionnaire. So it starts with the data actually. So without data it's nothing. Okay, so as you are seeing, this is a total station device, or not total station. This is a DGPS device, which is actually collecting the centimeter data. So what this guy is actually doing in this picture is he's mapping the property. So he's standing in the field and is trying to take the coordinate, the point. Okay, latitude and longitude, X and Y. Remember? So he's trying to take it that. Why is he standing in the open field? Because it would be easier for him to actually gather the information in an open sky. Okay, by sitting into the house, it won't be easy for him. Definitely some information he would collect, but it won't be that much precise. So that's why it is recommended that if you are collecting the data, you should be in the open sky. Okay, because that's how the GPS servers and the GPS satellite work. It doesn't work very precisely in the inside of the house. Okay, so likewise, he's actually collecting the latitude and longitude. That is points. Okay, he's getting a points. Street data, as you can see, street data is nothing but a line that you can digitize. So maybe you can procure it from ISRO. You can procure it from the Survey of India. Then parcels. Parcels means polygon, satellite imagery, elevation. Okay, how do we get the elevation? Elevation is nothing basically, but x and y is latitude and longitude. But that z comes into the picture. Z is basically the elevation, the altitude. Okay, so with the help of the altitude, you can actually frame that how your elevation is looking like, and you can also view it in 3D. Okay, so different layers have got different applications. Then land usage, and this is all incorporated into the real world scenario, and then you do the analysis as per your application. So actually it starts from the legacy data. You have your base maps available, different maps, town plan, development plan, paper maps, drawings, AutoCAD drawings, hand drawn maps, and different utility information such as drainage, such as maybe sewage treatment line. It can be anything. Okay, so based on your application, you start collecting the data. Okay, and then afterwards, once you have the data, you would start migrating into the form into the software. And before migrating into the software, you would have to convert it into the GIS format. GIS format is nothing but entity every entity is being set with an ID or maybe a latitude and longitude. So that's how the GIS dataset works. Okay. So after migrating, you start doing some cleaning, pre-processing, and then final analysis is being done. In this picture, you can see that how some missing information was collected. So on to the left hand side, if you can see some points were not taken, maybe those points have come afterwards. Here you can see a polygon was not there earlier. Okay, so that was the legacy data. Now this is the newly created data. So maybe something else has come here. Okay, I also informed you about that. How do you collect the information using a questionnaire or maybe GPS? So that is being done when you do the property survey, the property mapping, which nowadays government of India is doing for the villages. Especially it is being done in the villages. Why? Because the crop fields, the boundaries of the crop fields are not defined properly. So because of that only, many arguments between the owners of the different crop fields are happening every now and then. Okay, so it's a disputed sort of scenario at the time. So that's why government of India is doing the drone survey, the property tagging survey, and from different sources they are incorporating all that data into a single platform. So nobody can argue in the future that this is not my land or this is my land, or how he can come into this. So for that, actually you need precise data. That's why the satellite image is not that much useful in terms of the drone application, because drone is pretty much closer to you, so it will give you the data in centimeters. So if it is giving you in centimeters, there's no point of dispute, right? No applications. uh, as I already gave you a lot of examples that how GIS is being used in various fields, various scenarios. So how it is being practiced in the smart cities. uh, you already know that 100 smart cities were chosen by the government of India, and how it is being practiced there. uh, Many cities, like I was doing a project on Agra smart city in my last I would say job and project. Uh, that Agra smart city was supposed to install some smart cameras. So those smart cameras used to capture all the information, all the numbers. And by the way, this was I think 3 or 4 years ago. So now that technology is also old. Now new technology might have come around, like artificial intelligence. Okay, drone survey, anything can IoTs. So that at that time that camera used to capture every information about a vehicle, and it used to send all those information into a server, and that server used to calculate how much the traffic congestion is there on a particular junction or a particular area. So according to that, if any accident is happening in the future, the engineers used to come and check that is it because of the traffic congestion, or is it because of the design of the street, or maybe a flyover is needed. So accordingly they would plan something new. So you see how different sort of sources are capturing the data and how they're actually monitoring it. Okay. I would also give you an example of uh, health example, maybe like right now COVID scenario is there, but earlier some other disease might have been there, like a famous scientist from England who prepared this map of cholera. Cholera, I think you guys must be aware about it. It was also a disease just like the COVID. It was also very deadly. So he designed a map in which he showed all the locations where the cholera patients were there. So he identified, okay, this is a clustered pattern which is being identified at a particular location. Then he identified, okay, this tube wells have got some sort of issue in that. So when that tube well was removed from there, some particular tube well was removed from there, then cholera cases start declining. So you see how the spatial planning is being practiced in health as well. If I want to give you another example, the army surveillance is happening, or maybe not army surveillance. I'll give you a simple example: flood estimation modeling. By the help of elevation data, as I already mentioned, that X and Y and Z. X and Y is our latitude and longitude, and Z is our elevation data. So based on the elevation data of a surface or maybe a city, you can view it in 3D, that how a city is looking like. And if a stream or a river is passing by that city, and if the river water level is rising by maybe 5 meters or maybe 20 meters or 30 meters, what are those areas which would be affected or which would come under the flood prone area? So a sort of a vulnerability map you are creating out of it. Okay, so that vulnerability map would be helping you to identify such locations which are not suitable for maybe a setup of a township, colony, or any sort of development. Because if the water level is rising very highly or adequately, it is not possible to live there or plan there. So likewise, many such applications are there. So applications are enormous. So in my thesis, I worked upon the mineral mapping using hyperspectral imagery. Now, what is that hyperspectral imagery? Don't go into it, but there's this was a application which I used. So I mapped the minerals which are being located in the southern part of Rajasthan, and along with it, I also calculated only that much information which is required to map minerals only. So a satellite imagery is there, and the satellite imagery is having huge amount of information. But if a person wants to map the minerals, he does not need to go to the whole information. He will only gather that much information which I have given to him for the mineral mapping. Rest all the information is useless for him in terms of mineral mapping application. Otherwise, if he wants to maybe measure the crop, whether it is a kharif crop or rabi crop, he can maybe use it. But my idea was to give such sort of information only, which would be useful for the scientist or for the future researchers for mineral mapping. Okay. Now the software which are being used in this, most common softwares are ArcMap or ArcPro. This is designed by a company known as Esri, which is a US based company, and it has got its location worldwide. And this is the market standard software. By the way, many softwares are there. I've written only a few, but these are the software which are of market standards. That means every company or every organization which is working with GIS are using the softwares. Okay, some may be paid softwares, some may be open source software, some may be free source, some may be FOSS software. Okay, so different softwares are there, but they all are actually the market standards. ADAS is that is actually for the image interpretation, image classification. Okay, if you want to measure the NDVI, NDVI means Natural Differential Vegetation Index. Okay, what does that mean? Actually, it's a vegetation index. It's an index, it's a ratio, it's a value which will show you that how much the vegetation has declined or maybe increased over the period of years or maybe period of months. Okay. So such softwares are being used now. That this QGIS software is an open source software, and it's a substitute of ArcMap. Okay. Um, Industry standard database which are being practiced are Postgres, PostGIS, GeoDatabase, which is a part of SD software only. Then MongoDB is also being practiced. Then some servers are there: Arc server, Geo server, Map server.